Welcome everybody to another session of Writer to Writer with Frazzle Lit. I'm Jennifer McMahon, co-editor-in-chief, and I'm joined today by a dear friend and an absolutely fantastic writer whose debut novel will be out on Tuesday, 3rd of March, which is only about 4 days away. Her name is Barbara Byar. Welcome, Barbara.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for
Great.
having me, Jen.
I'm delighted to have you and delighted to be in this position of interviewing you and to be talking about In the Desert, which is just such it's a phenomenal novel. I mean, I read it. I was one of the first readers while it was still in progress. It blew me away. It's absolutely incredible piece of work. So let me tell you a little bit about Barbara. Barbara Byers is a working class American writer living in Ireland for over 25 years with her two boys and two dogs. Her critically acclaimed collection of stories, Some Days Are Better Than Ours, by Reflex Press, was shortlisted for the Saboteur Awards. Her short fiction has been published and prize listed widely, including for Pushcart, Best Small Microfictions and Best Microfictions nominations. She was shortlisted for the Irish Book Awards Short Story of the Year in 2023 and longlisted in 2021. A recipient of an Irish Arts Council Literature Bursary and an Agility Award. She is a previous winner of the Irish Writers' Centre International Debut Novel Competition and was the editor of the Motel Anthology published by Jamboree Press. And we met at the Irish Book Awards in 2023, of course, because we were both shortlisted for Short Story of the Year. So that was wonderful to meet you there, and we had an interesting and wonderful time.
Oh yeah. It was big.
So let me just share the cover of this for people who are watching. Unfortunately, the people on the podcast won't see this, but I want to share the cover, beautiful cover of In the Desert. This very evocative image. So talk me through this, Barbara.
Okay, so there's a couple of things going on here that drew me to use this image as my cover. The first thing is I had seen the photograph on social media, and it's by a very famous British photographer called Keith Bernstein. And I had seen that when I was still formulating ideas for this book. And it kind of really inspired me. I also thought of something. I had read an article about the last phone booth on Earth, and it was the phone booth in the middle of the Mojave Desert, and it's no longer there. But I was kind of really, mesmerized by this concept of this phone booth in the middle of nowhere that, and people would go and take pictures of it on social media. And I was like, why is this phone booth in the middle of nowhere? And is it working? And if it's not working, what brought it there in the first place? And maybe it's magic. Why not? So it just went from there. Now, this photograph, I was like, oh, this would make such a brilliant cover for my book for reasons that will become obvious if you read it. But I said, oh, I'm with a very small publisher, Cowboy Jamboree Press, and there's not a huge budget for book covers, so I knew we couldn't possibly afford to use it. But I chanced my arm and I sent Keith an email and explained the situation and how much his photograph had inspired me and how perfect it was for my book. And is there any chance he might give it to me on, mate rates, even though we weren't mates at the time. And he said, and I just like I literally burst into tears when I read his email. He said, "Do you know what? I really like chocolate covered Brazil nuts, and if you get me a box of chocolate covered Brazil nuts, you can use the image." And I literally burst into tears. It was so unbelievably kind. So that's the story of the cover. When you read the book, if you read the book, I hope you do, you'll see why it's so pertinent to the story.
Just to describe the cover for people who are listening on podcasts. So we have a desert setting with a phone box and a couple kissing in it against a very dramatic sky. It's quite a very evocative, very intense image. and very generous of the photographer. I mean, that was there's such generosity among artists.
Mhm.
Wonderful. So the I'm gonna share the blurb from blurb for the book, the back cover blurb, and then I'm going to share my blurb for the book, which I wrote and is included in the novel. In the desert, a phone box begins to ring. The traumatized movie star returns to his dying hometown to find the woman he loves has disappeared. He vows to find her. Told through an innovative, non-linear narrative and the lens of five friends, In the Desert takes the reader on a gut-wrenching roller coaster ride through the shadows of a near-future America as the consequences of a bartered 24 hours from their childhood unravels in betrayal, murder, undying love, and a phone booth at the end of the world. And what I said about this novel is In the Desert is like watching Paris, Texas and Blood Simple in 3D on acid at a blisteringly hot drive-in movie theater. This is the American dream turned bad and mean, the death of naive and youthful fantasy on tortured desert highways, the agony of lost love. It is dark and so darn beautiful you will want to read it again and again. I swear you will never forget this novel. It will haunt you, reinvigorate you, make you believe that even at the end of all things cherished, true love can endure. Read it, love it, tell everyone about it. In the Desert is a true classic, and I stand over those words wholeheartedly. It's wonderful. So, hey, how about doing a reading first? Let's hear. We've talked so much about it. Let's hear some.
Okay. And by the way, I actually was moved to tears by your blurb as well. So thank you. Right. So the I'm going to start at the beginning, which is actually an end. So if you see, the first chapter is called An End. He runs, heavy breath puffing ghosts into the misty desert air. They haven't found him yet, but they will. He must find her first, if nothing else, that. Milky Way splashed like God's outcast children across the sky. Moonlight glazes a milky cataract over dust and dirt, shrub and stones. Where is it? Where is the damn phone booth? Eyes darting, head turning, he doesn't see the rock jutting from Brittlebush. Trips. Ground meets him cold and hard as he rolls from the landmine hiss of a disturbed rattler. No Jesse to save him this time. He gets bitten, he's a goner, and they won't have to shoot him, just watch him die. He curls into an armadillo ball, cuffs his ears against the demon cackle of coyotes, the rumble of rolling thunder. Give up, you're no hero. It's hopeless, and if he's learned anything in his long, short life, it's that hope is what you cling to when you don't have the guts to pull the trigger. You need to believe now, Raphael. He was never much of a believer in anything except himself, and look where that got him. Still, he's lived in the desert long enough to know strange comes and goes, and magic proffers its wares whether you believe or not. Fuck it. He gets up, keeps going. Shouts, searchlights scour the sand, licking his heels, dogs bark. A nightmare screech as drones drag race down from the mountains. Minutes, only minutes before they reach him. Faster now, move. He's seen what they do, what they'll do to him, to them. There, a silhouette on the horizon. He's found it, finally. The phone booth is cactus clustered on three sides. Door open, light off. She's leaning hard, head on top of the phone. She could be resting, or not. Cold metal bites his palm as he grabs the edges of the open door. She falls into his arms, eyes ablaze, searchlights closing in, hounds rabid at their scent. Jesse, his voice is sandblasted hoarse, heart ragged. He gasps, might puke. You found me. I will always find you. He kisses her, world closing in, and all he wants is this kiss, and it can end right here, right now. Skyfall or bullet rain, he won't feel a thing, only her dry lips warm against his, her skin hot under his desperate hands. Raphael, Raphael, she brushes his tears away with her thumbs. Breath mists and glass fogs. He strokes her hair while sand blows in the open doorway, dunes at their feet. Her breath smells of stale smokes and pints of resignation. Eyes star bright as she looks up at him on that desperate night. Eyes full of hope, 'cause hope is always the last thing to die. More shouts, light slashes the booth. He holds her, will shield her from the future mere minutes away. He pulls her close, so close not even death can come between them. She pushes him away. Close the door, close it now. It won't budge. Door old and desert dry, the hinges creak and groan, but it won't move, only rattle. He two-hands it, and the handle snaps off. Jessie falls to her knees, digs out the rock crammed in the metal runner, dirty fingernails fracturing, breath panting. Now, Raphael! He forces the accordion door closed. The light goes on overhead, a beacon for their bullets. They wheeze as they pass, ricochet off nearby rocks and send shale shards flying. Ain't no escape. Come out with your hands up. It's not his voice, but sure as shit he's there behind them. Darker than their past and just as relentless. Jessie pulls Raphael up with one hand, picks up the receiver with the other, doesn't drop it, dials. And someplace, somewhere, in a dream, as bullets rain like falling stars upon them, someone answers, and the wind begins to howl.
Beautiful, absolutely wonderful. I remember reading that when you sent it to me first. I was like, oh my God, it was so good. It's wonderful prose. What I love about your writing is you really lean into what's uncomfortable, what's difficult. You don't shy away from um you don't shy away from emotion. What you write feels very real, very immediate, and it's very active. Um, so what was your vision for this novel? Like, where did this come from? Okay, so to talk about it in broader terms, it's a non-linear narrative. It takes place across time and space, across different periods of the characters' lives. There's five friends there as the principal characters, um, and it involves magic. It involves weirdness. It involves real grit, the hardest edges of humanity. It's set in the near future America. Quite a brilliant vision for that. In a world which is on the edge of ecological failure, and so that's an incredible vision. Like to tackle a project like that, how how was that possible? How did you break that down to make it manageable for yourself?
Okay, so I didn't start out to write a nonlinear narrative. But one of my first thoughts about this was about time, and I'd have all these expressions of time. So if you read the chapters, there's no chapter numbers, they're all different expressions of time. And the first sentence I think I ever wrote for this book was, it was before the end, but only just. And I really loved that sentence. Well, as I was developing my ideas and my thoughts about what the story was going to be about, it just didn't fit in the beginning. So I said, well, it is the beginning, but it's not going to be the beginning. Well, why don't I do something different? Why don't I just take all of these expressions of time and move them around and to something interesting? So it's not one the beginning and the end. It's actually quite the reverse, with a hodgepodge all in between it. But the thing that really excited me about writing this book is that writing in a nonlinear fashion, you have to pay very close attention to cause and effect, and what happens in, and the clues that you're giving to the reader as you go along. Now, this book is a fairly not easy read, but anybody who's read it, there haven't been too many yet, but anybody who's read it just says it's a real page turner. They go through it. But if you read it very carefully, you'll see that there are an incredible amount of clues to give, to develop the characters, their backgrounds, what's motivating them, and they're fed in different chapters as you go along, and sometimes very, very short phrases or a sentence here or there or a bit of dialogue. Another thing, I was thinking about this, another thing that influenced me in this approach was I read a lot of Korean dramas, or not read, I watch a lot of Korean dramas. And Korean dramas, their storytelling, they're usually about 16 episodes, 12 or 16 episodes, and they go back and forth in time a lot. So, and I've actually found that really interesting to build depth, to your characters. You think it's counterintuitive that, going back and forth in time, would be confusing, but it actually gives you more depth into the characters and their motivations as you go on. And it's just like, it also leads to a sense of what's going to happen next. It's like there's anticipation and where is the story going to go and what's going to happen, and you get really invested, I feel, in the characters. So yeah, I mean, it all started with a sentence and with, just playing with units of time. And I got really excited. Every time I came up with a new expression, I have two friends, Davina and Ashling, that I was always bouncing ideas off of, and they're writers as well. And I was like, oh, what about this? Oh, what do I do this? And they'd be looking at me like, what is she on about? Like, no, it's going to make sense. We'd have dinner and I'd be like, and then I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do this. And I've never been more excited about a piece of work that I wrote, because, things would just almost reveal themselves to me as I went along, and this is actually the first book I've written. I've written a few books. This will be my first published novel, but this is the first book I've written where there's very, very, very little of my own personal experience or story in it. As authors, we live life and we draw from our own personal experience, in the way we present things, the way we view things, what we see, and, the emotion we convey. But, some of my others have actual events from my life that I've drawn from. This one, not so much.
And yeah, I remember how excited you were as you were writing it, because you were on the phone to me and you were saying, "Oh my God, I came up with this idea!" Yeah. And you were so buzzed by it, and I mean, you were in the flow, which is a wonderful flow state, which is a wonderful state to be in. Um, and you work full time, so and you write, and I think you wrote a lot of this longhand initially, didn't you?
I did. I find when I'm drafting the first draft of a novel, I tend to write everything longhand. Just because seeing it on the paper and then drawing lines and notes and everything, you can't, the word processors aren't really conducive to that kind of, note taking and insertions and do this here and do that there, or move this to, that sort of thing. So I really enjoy the whole process of opening a brand new notebook and writing the date on it and getting, pen to paper.
It's something I've always wanted to do, but I've never done it.
Oh,
But
I highly recommend it.
yeah,
I do. I mean, it is a bit more work. I mean, like I've been typing for a very long time, so but I find there's a distancing effect between when you're typing something up. more so than actually physically. I know you're physically typing, but the pen and the ink, and I don't know.
No, no, I agree with you. When I make notes, I tend to make them on paper. Or if I'm stuck and I want to brainstorm, I do it on paper. It does. I suppose we're taught to use a pen before we use a computer. So it's more ingrained in the neural pathways. So you have this wonderful opening. We want to be very careful to avoid spoilers in this interview because the story does kind of reveal itself to the reader, and there is a lot of mystery. And even by reading an early chapter, we could kind of skew a reader's view of it. So let's talk about the opening. And I mean, you create a lot of mystery there straight away. What are they doing? Why is he running? Who's chasing him? Why is there a phone box in the desert? Um, and I'm just going to read a couple of lines here that spoken by a character called Dakota, who's the aunt of one of the main characters. Dakota is a most wonderful creation. I absolutely adore Dakota. She's a wise woman of the desert. She's wise in the ways of the world and in the ways of magic and in stories. And she says, the desert is full of danger, but also magic. And the more magic there is, the greater the danger. Some enchantments are worth the risk, others not, because no matter how clever you think you are not clever enough. No one is. So these characters, Jesse, Sarah, Alice, and Travis,
Raphael.
and Raphael, of course. Sorry, yes, wonderful Raphael. Um, they they the story starts with them as they're in their teens, aren't they? Are they younger?
Well, it
Depends which.
depends on what you mean by when the story starts.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But when they
Because
when they hear about the story of the phone box in the desert initially from
oh yeah,
Dakota,
they'd be young
their
children.
children, and but we follow we're following their lives. So as they grow, they as we all do, they have dreams, they have ambitions, and they have wishes. And so Raphael is a very interesting character in that respect. He's and he and Jesse are together. Sarah and Travis are together. I'm kind of skirting around, trying not to drop spoilers. It's very hard not to do.
It's really hard to do because even when looking at chapters to read for this, I was like, no, I can't read that because that'll be a spoiler. And like going back to the original, talk about nonlinear, and narratives and all of that. Every chapter basically has a spoiler to what is going to come or what has come, or so.
And there's
So I
nothing
picked.
that isn't essential in this novel. I mean, that's one of the wonderful things about it. You can't take one of those chapters out and say, well, I can cut that, because it is all essential. Like everything is there by intention. Everything is necessary to the story. Everything serves the story and the plot and the characters. So it's a fantastically constructed novel. Um, so maybe we can, I mean, to talk about Raphael and Jesse, they have a deep, deep love for each other. And um, I suppose the novel is really about, they're the central characters, really. It's about Jesse's love for Raphael's. We start with him trying to find Jesse, and he always seems to be trying to find Jesse in a way, and to connect with her. And so that there is a lot of longing. So I was wondering what drives them. Is it ambition or wishful thinking, or is it love or need? Is it hollowness at the center of them, at the center of their lives? Are they trying to fill some emptiness that's there?
Well, I
Or
think. Oh, sorry.
Now, or is it to regain something they've lost?
Now, I think there's a bit of all of that, but I think, everybody is informed. There's a spectrum of how our pasts play into our lives. Some it just informs our choices. Sometimes, to the other end, we're haunted by our past. So, both of them have, tragedy in their past, and that kind of motivates them to have a different future than what their past was. So, that means one thing for Raphael, and it meant a similar thing for Jesse, but circumstances without giving any spoilers again, but circumstances got in the way of her fulfilling her ambitions. And, so I look at, Raphael wants to be a movie star. Okay, I can say that much. So he goes to Hollywood, and, you know, things unfold in a way that is all his dreams coming true. But I think I have a line in the book that, that I'll actually read later. But not only nightmares are dreams too. So, his dream turned sour really fast. And so I'm looking at Raphael's journey about he wants to do better, he wants to be famous, he wants to be remembered. And he thinks this is the way to do it. The same as all of us when we're young. We have a vision of what success looks like, of what fame looks like if we want to be famous. We have high ambitions. Raphael has the goods to fulfill those ambitions, but he learns the hard way that, it's not all what it's chalked up to be. And, there's an unfortunate kind, well, we talk about that later, but, and with Jesse, she, she had ambitions that could have been realized, but they made a bargain that kind of got in the way of all of that. So, her life took a definitively different turn, and I won't go into all of that, but I really like the way Jesse's character development and her trajectory as as an adult went, and yeah.
It is hard to talk about. Fair warning to readers. I mean, there's a lot of darkness in this novel. There's a lot of beauty, but I mean, you don't shy away, as I said earlier, from the grittier side of life. And there's darkness, there's light, there's immorality, um, and there's what words could I use without giving anything away? Well, there's atmosphere. There is blistering atmosphere. Um, in reading it, I thought of Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury, and in terms of the quality of the prose, which is the highest praise I could level, I think, and that sense of mystery, that something is happening, that something is going to happen. I was almost on the edge of my seat, waiting for the next thing that was going to happen, and the and it's a book that really delivers on its promise. I mean, this is coming to the end of it was just incredible. It was just a beautiful experience. Um, and it made me wonder, in writing a non-linear narrative, um, and managing all the time, the different points of view, because there are multiple points of view, um, to kind of tie all that up together was quite a feat.
Oh yeah, it really was. I was just like, I'm not as young as I used to be, but I take actual comfort in the fact that I was able to figure all this out. So I'm not getting in senile yet. Because there's multiple themes running through the book, um, subplots, and to manage all that and tie everything together and make it work. It was about 9 or 10 drafts and of this book. And, and I had feedback from yourself. Thank you very much. In the early drafts, it was incredibly helpful. And a couple of other, my friend Ashling and Davina gave me some feedback as well. So, that what wasn't working, what was working, so because you don't know when you're embarking on something, a project like this, you're like, oh lads, am I really going to make this work or not? And I knew when it went out for advanced reader copies went out and somebody came back to me and said, how the fuck did you do this? Like they couldn't figure out how I did it. Like genuinely couldn't figure out how I did it. I don't know if they use fuck, but you pretty much their sentiment. And it works. So, but lads, I was pulling my hair out at certain places. One of the last themes that I figured out was this was a song theme. There's a song theme running through, different characters, different, when you read it, you'll see. But that was one of the last things I pulled together. And it was some feat of craft, and I love doing it every time. Even when the last read through I was doing, one of the last read throughs, reading. Yes, yes, yes. Breaks on. I was like, no, what's going on there? So I kept having to adjust things and fix things, and now I'm happy with it. So, but going back to the whole grit and literature and darkness and all of that, there's not many euphemisms in this book. Okay, so if we talk about if we have a sex scene, it's a sex scene. If we're talking about violence, there's violence. If there's I don't feel there's any point, everybody's life, particularly these days, is hard, some harder than others. And what's the point of talking about it if we're not talking about the truth? If we're just alluding to different things, if we're alluding to, fade to black, or, zoom out, and then, something happened. No, I mean, I really get into it because how else are you going to understand the experiences of these characters if, you're not being honest about what's happening? And there is some real dark stuff in there. And unfortunately, there's some really topical stuff in there now at the moment. And I was a bit nervous about that, but it's real. So, this book is about where there's magic in it, and magical realism is also very gritty realism. So it's a combination of the two.
So your debut is coming out. So exciting. Your debut novel, you obviously had other works published, but how does it feel?
Well, I'm equally excited and equally nervous. So I mean, I've been writing in one form or another since I was a child. I've written 4 novels prior to this. One came very close to getting, published. I had an agent, it didn't work out. Then I had a publisher for it, and it didn't work out. And then I've written 2 more since then. And it's all been a learning process. Like I don't have any formal education in writing other than my high school teacher, Mrs. Rishank. I will never ever forget her because she really drilled basic writing mechanics into me. And I don't know would I've ever had the skill without her, influence. But it's been a long journey for me, and I mean, I've been writing in some form or another. Now, when you're a mom and raising children and life takes precedence at certain points in, in time. But I've always been writing, or, thinking about writing. And I'd say this has been going on for 50 years now. So I finally have my debut novel coming out, and I'm so excited because I'm really proud of it. I think it's a culmination of years of figuring out what works, figuring out what doesn't work, of reading, of, of writing. Like I said, I've had no formal education. I've never even really done any workshops, a couple things here and there, just one, for a couple hours. But yeah, but I'm also nervous because, I'm with a small publisher. We don't have it's not like the big five publishing houses with big marketing budgets, and getting the word out and getting in front of the public, and getting, you are very kindly doing this podcast with me. Thank you very much. But there's getting the word out is so intrinsic to getting readers. And so I'm nervous that, people won't know about this book. So I'm hoping that people will read it, they'll enjoy it, they'll tell other people about it, and, my audience will build that way. I'm also relieved in a way, it's like it's happening, it's finally happening. So yeah, it's all good.
It is all good, and it's one of the joys I have is getting to interview people who are actually friends of mine who I know on the writing journey, who I've shared some of the journey with, that I get to actually talk to them about their debuts, and try and build the word a bit. I have every confidence this is going, like, to me this is a cult classic, an instant cult classic. If someone doesn't make if someone doesn't make a movie of this, it would be shocking to me. I mean, this is real. Yeah, I compared it to Paris, Texas, and Blood Simple. If the Coen brothers don't snap this up and make a movie of it, I'll be shocked. Um,
I'll tell you something. I never actually fully watched Paris, Texas. So, like, I only saw scenes of that movie, and it just, the atmosphere kind of, uh, I really love the atmosphere of that movie, but I've never seen, I actually bought it because I said, oh, you better watch that movie, because people say, oh, this is like Paris, Texas. I said, well, you better get watching that then. So,
no.
but I've never actually read it all the way through, or watched it all the way through. So
But I think the atmosphere is the thing about I compared it to Blood Simple because of that atmosphere, that kind of the darkness, the the sense of something is happening, and something worse is about to happen, and it's a roller coaster ride of emotion and energy, and I mean, it's absolutely breathtaking piece of work. One of my favorite novels, definitely. It will be soon taking pride of place when I get my copy on my bookshelf. And so let's finish with we finish with the reading, but before then, let's talk about your writing practice as someone who works. We talked about your writing longhand. I mean, is like I have the benefit of being able to work on writing full time, which is a great blessing. But as a working writer, as a working writer, how difficult is it?
yeah, it's about carving time. Like at work, we get two breaks, two 30-minute breaks, and I would sit in the cafeteria for those breaks and be squirreling away in my notebook, either editing or or writing. And at first, and people would come up to me and say, "Oh, won't you join us?" And I said, "Oh no, I'm working, I'm working." So then people just respected my space and my, practice of working on my writing during my breaks. And after a full day's work, you'd be tired enough when you get home, and then you got to do the chores, all of this and that, the dogs, the kids, everything. And by the time you sit down every night, you're just exhausted. So really forcing yourself to spend the time and working on your writing is challenging. I know I spent, weekends pretty much. I caught up on a lot of the work on the weekends, evenings, where I could. It's amazing how productive I could be in 2 30-minute blocks at work just because I've hyper focused. But yeah, like I'll tell you something. When the kids were younger, I wasn't working because I was staying home and taking care of them. And so I had all of the time in the world well, not really, well, when I wasn't taking care of my children, I had, the time to write. I wasn't going to work. And I'm actually more productive when I have a full-time job than I was then. So it's really interesting. And, though saying that now, I go to Kilrillig. It's an artist retreat in Kerry. A few times. I've been there 5 or 6 times. I wasn't there for this book, but on other books that I've written. And you're kind of isolated on the cliffs, looking over the ocean, and there's nothing to do there except work. So even though I wasn't working full time, a week or two there, I was hyper focused as well. So I think your environment, your writing environment, really matters, and your commitment. Phones are deadly. I mean, you could, social media and all of this, and scrolling on your phone, just like it's poison to creativity, but we all do it. um so it's challenging, but you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you said about carving time. If you want something done, ask a busy person, they say.
Mm,
So, as you say,
mm.
when you had the time, when you have less time now, you're more productive, and I find I have so many different projects on that I actually get a huge amount done, more than if I didn't have those projects on.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, would you like to do a reading?
Sorry.
Would you like to do a reading?
Oh yeah, I will. Now, I'm going to visit Raphael and Jesse again, just because this short chapter can be taken out of context without giving too much away. So this chapter is called One Perfect Day. It was one of those days when the sky gathered and the air crackled in warning. Raphael drummed his fingers on the steering wheel along to the radio, but there was only one stairway to heaven, and it was between Jesse's thighs. He only hoped to God he'd finally climb it soon. He turned the radio off and listened to the music of the desert blowing through the open window. "You hear that?" he said. Over road rumble and under her steady breathing, there was the faint trill of carnival music. Jessie stuck her head out the window. Wind whipped her long hair, and she gasped from the thrust and thrum of it. Waved her hands and hooted. She laughed and settled back in her seat. Her chest hummed, rising and falling as it did when they kissed, and the wind was knocked out of both of them. "I hear nothing but the wind," she said. Should he tell her? Probably not. Best to change the subject, but he couldn't help himself. "Remember the phone booth Dakota told us about when we were kids, near the carnival? The one at the end of the world, where dreams come true?" Jessie picked at a dirty hangnail, bit it off, grimaced at the short, sharp sting of torn flesh. "Yeah, but nightmares are dreams too." That's the challenge, he said, chest hairs glistening through his wife beater. It's like roulette. We just gotta dial the right number. Bare feet on the dashboard, sundress surfing her hips, Jessie smoked a Marlboro Red to get his taste from her mouth. Raphael hit the indicator for exit 33, but Jessie flicked it off with her big toe. Let's keep going and never stop, not till we find it, she said. Raphael nodded, eyes on the road, mind on her. He rubbed the chin stubble that had sandpapered her neck while she scratched at mosquito bites on her ankle. When they were younger, they searched for years for that phone booth and never found it, but their belief persisted because in the middle of nothing, you had to believe there was something. Jessie's startled cat stiffened. I hear it. She looked at him through a haze of honey blonde hair, one eye meeting his in excitement. The song. The music was wonder, and in the wonder warning, and beyond the warning welcome. Jessie squeezed his thigh and grinned. Raphael brushed the hair from her face, kissed her quick, and put his foot down on the accelerator. Steered towards the storm.
I was going to try and pick out a line or two, but it's just all like every line is just magic. Steer towards the storm, and every dreams, or is it nightmares or dreams too? It's just the prose blows me away. Barbara, it has been wonderful to talk to you today. I wish you sincerely from my heart the very, very best of luck with this novel. It deserves to do fantastically well. I hope it does. And I hope to have you back again for the next novel. We'll have another chat and maybe catch up on how the first one went.
Jen, I'd like to thank you now for all your support and help on along the way in my journey with this book, and for doing this today. It's really meant the world to me. And you know, at times I was really doubting myself and doubting what I was doing, and your support and your encouragement really, really, it meant a lot to me. So thank you, and thank you for doing
More than
this.
welcome, my friend.
And I hope you're right. So everybody, buy my book. Look, this beautiful book.
In the Desert by Barbara Byar, out 3rd of March 2026. Buy
It'll
it.
be available. Oh
You
yeah.
won't
Sorry.
buy it, you won't regret it.
Yeah.
Promise.
It'll be available on if you're in Ireland, you can get it through O'Mahony's bookshop in Tralee. I'm trying to get it into other bookshops as well, or you can order your copy on your local Amazon. So starting March 3rd, yeah.
Fantastic.
From Cowboy Jamboree Press, and thanks very much to my publisher as well for believing in this book. So
Thank you so much, Barbara. Wonderful to talk to you. Thank you.
Bye.